Welcome to Love Light, the only podcast dedicated to bright, fine art photography. Hosted by Sarah Jane Ethan, Love Light is here to celebrate all things bright, pretty and pastel. At Love Light, white is the new black and beauty is in the detail. This is your place to relax, a place to belong, a place to be inspired and connect with like-minded colleagues who share your passion for light and beauty. So come and introduce yourself in the Love Light Facebook group and subscribe to the Love Light YouTube, podcast and Instagram for your weekly dose of inspiration and connect with bright, fine art photographers from around the world.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Love Light podcast. Today we've got an absolute treat for you because we have Cassi Claire, who is not only a bundle of fun and laughter and energy and loveliness, she is also an award-winning and internationally published photographer who has had her business for 9 years. She lives in Bridgewater, New Jersey with her husband Chris, who also works in her business with her. And her work, I recognise Cassi's work as being very bright, very elegant, very timeless, very pastel-y, which I love because I particularly have a penchant for bright and airy pictures, and Cassi's work is so idyllic. Cassi has started working with film, and so she was mentioning to me that there's more contrast coming in, a little more shadow in her work, but still very characteristically Cassi, bright and airy and fun and full of laughter and movement. And so I'm excited to get to know her. Thank you so much for joining us, Cassi.
Yay! I'm blushing over here. So sweet.
Oh, you're so welcome. No, it's very early in the morning for you there, isn't it? So I appreciate you getting up so early to come and speak with us.
I love it. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, amazing. So, Cassi, we'd love to just get to know you a little bit. We've seen some of your work in the. We'll have posted your work in the Love Light Facebook group. If you're not a part of the Facebook group, go and check out her work. It is absolutely gorgeous. So we know your work. We want to get to know you, the lady behind the camera. So tell us a little bit about your journey. 9 years ago, something happened.
Yes.
You picked up a camera and everything changed. What was that journey for you?
Yes. So I shot my first wedding 9 years ago, and it was actually 2 weeks after my own wedding. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was intense. So like about 2 to 3 years before that, I started just photographing people. So I loved headshots of my friends or senior portraits or, like family gatherings, that kind of stuff. And then a friend of mine had asked me to photograph her wedding. And I said, no, absolutely not. I am not responsible for ruining your wedding photos. And I said, meet with professionals. I'd love to be there as a guest. And she comes back to me a couple of weeks later and she's like, I met with 11 people and I hated them all. Will you please photograph my wedding?
Wow.
So I reluctantly agreed, but I told her she couldn't pay me because if I screwed it up, it wasn't my fault. So it ended up being one of my favorite photography days of my entire life because I guess I didn't realize that it was really all the different magical parts that we love. It was the details and kind of that still life aspect. And then you have the bride and groom, you have the wedding party, which is the big groups, you have the family, which is always just fun. I love meeting parents and siblings and just all that fun family time. And then of course you have the whole event photography. It just really was every possible type of photography rolled into one day. And after that, it set off a fire in me and it became my mission to learn how to shoot every lighting scenario, every, type of wedding, skin tone, etc. And I ended up that year, 2011, photographing 11 weddings, which was a mix of friends getting married who didn't have photographers and second shooting for people. But I was so excited. I couldn't believe I had 11 weddings my first year. And then my first official visit or, year in business, I would say was 2012. That was when I was actually charging real money, real rates.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely one of those things where it kind of fell into my lap. I never dreamed of being a wedding photographer. I didn't even know that was a career that was possible. And then 2011 also happened to be kind of that emergence of things like Creative Live and everybody blogging, free education. And I just was a sponge. And I just wanted to suck it all up. And if podcasts had existed back then, I would have listened to every single one.
Amazing. I think podcasts are making a huge comeback, especially in photography circles, because it's something to do while you're editing.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And then it was just it was 0 to 60 full steam ahead once I realized it's what I wanted to do.
Wow. So, and you clearly still have the passion for it. It's just all over your face.
Yeah.
You just still love your job. What is it that you love about photographing weddings?
Oh my gosh, it's everybody's best day ever. And I'm very thankful. I feel like we have not encountered bridezillas in our experience. I think part of that is you what you put out is what you attract. So being a joyful person, I think, tends to keep certain personality types away. Yeah. People who don't like to smile would probably like hate me. So yeah. So it's nice to be able to say we've had amazing brides to work with, and because of that, it really is like being surrounded by the happiest energy all the time. And, everybody's all dolled up. They look beautiful. People will literally say, this is the most beautiful I ever look. And I get to be there for that. And it's just, friends are excited for their friend getting married. And there's just this energy and excitement that I feel like keeps you young, and it keeps you in love, because my husband shoots weddings with me. And there's always a moment during the wedding day where we like lock eyes, and it's like a moment. And it's usually like during, I don't know, like an anniversary dance, like, it's like this cute little 80-year-old couple dancing, and you're just like, I want that to be us.
So lovely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's hard to be unhappy in a job like this.
I love that. And you said your husband works with you. Has he worked with you from the start, or is that something that got introduced later on in the journey?
Yeah, so he started second shooting with me in 2012 because we had a destination wedding. And I was like, if I'm traveling, I want you to come with me. And so I crash course trained him, took him to a park, showed him how to use, what reflective lighting was, how to look for good lighting. And we spent hours in that park where I just gave him my camera and I was like, okay, pose me. I'm a groom. Where am I going? And if he'd put me in spotty light, I'd say, nope. And if he'd put me in harsh light, I'd say, nope. And so crash course trained him. Now I was being polite and I was telling him he could shoot in AV mode, aperture priority.
Yeah.
We get to the reception at the wedding day and he tells me he's been shooting in manual mode the entire day. Now my first thought was, oh my gosh, show me the back of the camera.
Yes, yeah.
Then I remembered he went to school for biomedical engineering. So for him figuring this stuff out, he literally learned to shoot manual on the fly on a wedding day. And I hated him for it. I was like, why are you better at this than me?
That is fact. He sounds very similar to my husband, because my husband had a master's in biomolecular engineering or something very sciencey, and he's the same. He loves all the technical. He very quickly just he gravitates towards technical stuff. I just don't have the patience to learn stuff like that.
Same.
So it was vice versa.
The manual.
Yeah, so he taught me, and I wouldn't have had the patience. So I really admire you or anyone who taught themselves photography, because I just didn't have the patience. So he was teaching me all, but he didn't tell me that there was any settings other than manual. So I just learned manual straight away, and I had no idea that there was even any option. And it was only like after a year or two, and hearing people talking about aperture priority, I'm like, hang on a minute, could I have shot aperture priority?
Being so glad that you didn't.
I really am.
That comes with its own, quirks, and you have to trick it, especially with our brighter style.
Yeah.
The camera naturally wants to go darker, and you have to do, +2 exposure, and it's a whole thing. So it's actually way harder to shoot in AV than manual. So
I think that's because I noticed that when I heard about aperture priority, I thought, oh, well, like a schmuck, I've just been shooting manual all the time. I'm just going to shoot aperture priority. And exactly like you said, the camera just gravitated towards dark, and I was like, this is me, and I need to tell the camera what I want it to do. So I was then very grateful, and then I thanked him for teaching me manual.
For sure. My editing time, I mean, it must have gone down 70% when I started shooting manual from AV mode, because the camera would underexpose, and then I'd be sitting there trying to bring this back into my style. And so manual all the way. But so anyway, I was very impressed with him. And so he started from that point on second shooting every wedding that he didn't have to work for, because he was working for another company and he would be on call on the weekends. As of 3 years ago, he joined full-time with my business, so that he's been like helping me with office stuff behind the scenes, and contracts and QuickBooks and all the boring stuff. I'm like, can you like this stuff?
I love the sound of that. That is great.
Exactly. So yeah, he's been 3 years full time, but really he's been shooting for 8 years.
It's same with me and my husband. Honestly, I really admire people who do this on their own. I mean, really admire. I
Oh
can't
yeah.
imagine, because Matt does all of my websites. He keeps my cameras ticking over. If there's any problems, he sorts it out. Like, and I just think, yeah, I really admire people who do it on their own, because it's so lovely to have a team where you can just go, right, that's your strength, you do that. This is my strength, I'll do this. And so in the early days, we both had photography businesses, but separate ones. And so we would trade. Yeah, we would trade jobs. So I literally remember a day where I collapsed on the sofa with some dramatic, oh, my life is over, because something had gone wrong on my website and I had absolutely no idea how to fix it. And Matt said, babe, this is my strength. Like, I will fix this for you. I can do it. So he fixed my website, no problem. And then literally within an hour, he was on the same sofa with the same dramatic post, because he'd had a difficult email from a client and he had no idea how to reply. And I said, babe, this is my strength. Like, I'm good at this. I will.
Oh my gosh.
We'd like trade jobs. Right, you do my website, I'll do some of your editing. Like, and yeah,
it's amazing.
So well. Yeah. But now he works with me, because we've started doing behind the scenes filming. So he films me working now. So it's exactly like you. I'm used to being on my own, but now I've suddenly got him there, and we can, exactly like you, just have these little moments where we're like, oh, we're married.
Yeah. It is awesome. I will definitely say, like, I can shed more light on working as a husband and wife team, if the conversation goes that way, because I went into it very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, because Chris and I are like stupid addicted to each other. We're like, every single second of the day we want to spend together. And so we were like, this is going to be amazing. And it was, until we realized we had very different working styles. So it has been like, what do you call it? I guess like an evolution in like our relationship, trying to work through like what works best for me, what works best for him, and like not letting it affect our marriage. So I only say that because I think there are a lot of people who idealize the husband and wife team, and they make it their only goal, and it might not necessarily be the perfect fit for them. So
I know it is such an important topic. Yeah.
So that's just like a small little like side note. Like, I don't want to glamorize it. I don't want to say like it's magical every second of the day. Not to say that it's not unmagical, but I want to like paint the reality brush on it too, that there are definitely times where I'm like, why did you do what I asked? And he's like, stop yelling at me. So
let's take that detour and just chat about it, because that is an important topic, because I know a lot of people do work with their spouses, and it is a whole different ball game. Me and Matt had the advantage that we started working together when we first got married, so we very quickly carved out, this is the dynamic of our relationship, because you're not only each other's best friend and housemate and lover, you're suddenly each other's boss and co-worker and employee all at the same time, and that is some interesting dynamics in your relationship. So we managed to hash that out fairly quickly. Then my friends who'd been married for 10 years, they started working together this year, and they were like, oh, it's brilliant, we're such a good team. And I'm like, it will get hard. And she's like, no, it's going great. And I'm like, okay. And like within a few months, she said that they'd had days where they weren't speaking to each other. Their bedroom door was off its hinges because she slammed it and then he kicked it, and that was it. It was all, and they're starting to settle down into their routine now. Then I know another couple who've been married for about 30 years. They started trying to work together. They could not do it. They just couldn't. It's just, they've been married. The dynamics of their relationship had been in place for too long. So it is a very real, challenge working together. So tell me how you overcame some of those challenges, and how you've learned to give each other space and to appreciate each other's strengths. And
well, for starters, we are opposite energies where, like I said before, I come alive at like 11 p.m. and I just want to work like 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. I am a genius. I just like come alive and everything's magical. You talk to me before that, I'm pretty average.
Hilarious.
So that's my I guess quirk energy wise. Whereas Chris is very productive when he first wakes up. He wants to get up, have breakfast, do all his work, and by 5 p.m. he wants to be done so he can shut off, hang out with his brother, like relax, hang out with me. So our first kind of big, they'd always be subtle. So we're never like, mean to each other. We never yell at each other, but it'd be like subtle, it'd be 11 p.m. and I'd be like, oh, can you sign that contract? And it would be like, okay, and it's like and when suddenly, it's been 3 years of that, the tension like grows and stuff. So this year, actually, this being our 3rd year, we had to have a lot of like talks where we were working through these like little micro annoyances that we've been doing for the past couple of years. And of course, we shared an office too. So we were in the same room all day as well, which is wonderful. But then there's the temptation to, turn on, oh, babe, guess what I just saw on the internet? And he's in the middle of a thought. Or I'm typing an email and he's like, oh, did you see? And I'm like, nah, don't talk to me. So it's these tiny little things that you don't, like, you would never pinpoint that as like, oh, we're going to have a fight about this. Like, it's so micro. But when the micro annoyances build up, then you start having these bigger conversations. So we really just had to look at each other's strengths and each other's energy timeframes and stuff. And so now we have good systems in place where, for Chris, he is very tangible. I can't just like tell him if we're driving in the car, like, oh, hey, do this later. He will forget, I will forget, we'll all forget, and then I'll be mad for no reason. So every time I think of something, if we're out and about, at stores, I will email it to him so that his email kind of becomes his to-do list so he can get to his computer on his own time, look in his email, and do all the items that way. So it's small things, but it's a learning curve for sure. And, same for him, like he knows, so just this year, towards the end of last summer, we have separated our offices, which was, I'm not going to lie, I cried a little bit because it feels like, it's like a parting. I was like, don't leave me. But at the same time, I was like, no, you can go.
Hilarious.
And I say that with love and he knows that. But goodness, did our, working relationship improve immediately when we separated our offices, because it took away those micro annoyances. We weren't interrupting each other and we weren't unintentionally getting on each other's nerves. And so being in our own spaces, it's like so great because now, the middle of the day will come up, we'll want to go get a snack and we're like excited to see each other because it's been hours and we're not used to that.
So lovely. So lovely.
So anyway, detour, but I just want to share that, like, if you are considering working with your spouse, that, obviously eyes open. I thought my eyes were open going into it. No, we're addicted to each other. We'll never have problem. It's human nature to discover that you're not identical. You don't want to be identical to your husband. Yeah. You want those differences. And it's just a matter of, once you identify the differences, remembering you're on the same team and then working through the best systems to, get you back to the same team.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like you said, I think it's been the same for us, is just learning to appreciate each other's strengths. That the things that annoy you about that person are usually the things that in another scenario are one of the reasons you love about them. So Matt is very much a bigger picture person. I am a detail person. So in the past, that would really frustrate me because he would do things that was a bigger picture decision. So it wasn't where we are right now. He'd be making a decision for 5 years down the line. I'm like, babe, we're not there yet. We're here. Like, we need to do this now. He would feel like I'm micromanaging him because I'm picking on every little thing that he's doing, and he's like, stop micromanaging me, like, and I'm like, that little thing needs to be done, so that was a big dynamic to work out in our relationship. But it is a strength for us. I always I imagine it in my mind, like Matt can see the machine and he goes, oh, imagine if a machine like this existed. But if he was to build it, he would go, well, it's simple, isn't it? It just needs a motor and a cable and then it will go. And then he makes a motor and a cable and goes, oh, it's not going. I don't understand. Then he'll throw it out. Whereas I'm a cogs person. So I go, oh, yes, well, if you have a machine like that, it would need this cog and this cog and this cog, and then that cog's got to connect with 4 cogs, so that's got to be a particular cog. Yes. I really enjoy all the minutiae of it and the mechanics.
I think we are the same people, and that our husbands are the same people. Chris is very much the same, and it must be like the way an engineering, brain works, where they're just like, oh, this will be easy. which is ironic because I think you and I probably have the more engineering type of brain because we're curious about how to actually get it to work. But the big idea guys are the ones who, can think of what needs to be invented. I can just think of how to get it to work.
Well, that's the thing. Pretty much everything that we have in our life, we wouldn't have it if it wasn't for Matt, because I would never imagine it. I just couldn't
exactly
think of it. And the other day he's like, I love it when he goes, can I run an idea past you? And I'm like, yes, because I know this is going to be something totally wild that I would never have thought of. And he's like,
right,
I think we should invest in space farming or space mining or something like that. I was like,
I love it.
I didn't even know that's the thing. And he's like, oh, it's only just coming to light now. Like, it probably won't happen for the next 10 years or so, but I think we should start thinking about it now. And I'm like, I'm quite happy just keeping my house tidy, and like,
right. Well, there's a tip for everybody listening: invest in space farming.
Yeah, I mean, whatever that is. Like, I feel like I'm probably saying it all wrong, and Matt would be like, that's definitely not what I told you. But no, I love that. But I think that if you can get over those annoyances with each other and actually just think, right, this is his strength, how can I accommodate it and not get annoyed that he's not me, and vice versa, I feel like there's this intimacy that we have in our relationship that people who have separate jobs, I don't think they ever get the chance
for sure,
to be that close. And I really love that. I really appreciate it.
For sure. Oh, yes. And people still, I remember when we first told my parents, like, Chris is joining the business full time. I think it was my dad or my stepmom, one of them goes, are you sure? You're probably going to kill each other. And we were like, so offended. How dare you? And actually, to this day, one of the first things people say when we say, oh, we work together as husband and wife, they're like, oh, good luck, and stuff. And we hear these comments all the time. And even with working through our different work ethics and stuff, we would never think that. We would never think like, oh, we, aren't compatible anymore because we work together. Like, no, it's made us even more compatible. And now we know even more about each other that we never would have known had we not worked together. Yeah. It's like before he would go to his job, I knew nothing about his work ethic. He went to work and he came home. And so now being able to know, like, it's like you just get to know each other on an even deeper level than possible. So
absolutely, I love that. Well, thanks for that tangent, because I think that it is an important topic that I haven't discussed with anybody so far. So it is a really good thing to talk about. The other thing I really wanted to talk to you about, Cassie, because I have been waiting for weeks to talk to Cassie. I'm really very excited about this. But there's been a very particular reason why we've postponed this for a few weeks. Can you tell people about how this year has started for you, and what you're kind of stripping back and what it looks like for you and why you're doing it?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess it all starts with my word of the year, which this year is silence, which, if anybody knows me, that's not normally a word they would use to describe me. I am not short on words. But I felt like, we live in a very loud world. And I felt like one of the things that, God's been revealing to me on my heart lately is just that and this is going to sound a little heavy, but that I don't really know who I am anymore. Wow. And I don't mean that in the sense that I'm like not confident in, who I am or my abilities, but I mean at your core, when you think about what's really in your heart. The past, few years, especially with Instagram, I've realized that every moment of my life has been filled with noise, whether it's a quick scroll on Instagram and you feel the comparison set in, whether it's a quick scroll on Facebook and you feel the envy, of somebody doing something kick in, whether it's, I'm getting ready to go to bed and I think, well, I'll just check my email one more time. And then you see an email that you're like, I wish I didn't see that right before bed. And it's just this constant noise and this constant, like, I guess FOMO is what people would call it, where you're just checking all of your notifications constantly. And it's, I realized I wasn't even going to the bathroom without my phone. Like, what? Yeah. So I had no time to just think and to just be alone with my own thoughts. And God brought to my memory a time like when I guess it was in my early 20s, and I used to spend hours, and this sounds so weird saying it now, but I used to spend hours just sitting on my bed thinking, and I'd be
Oh my
lost
goodness,
in
we are the
thought.
same person. I used to do the same thing. I used to do it every evening. I just put on some candles and a bit of Lighthouse Family, and I would just sit there and I think for hours.
Right? Yes. And it's like the only reason why it sounds weird is because I haven't done it in years.
Yeah.
And so so the word silence, it was just really have it like calligraphied and on my desk to remind me, but it's really just to force myself into these moments of being uncomfortable with my own thoughts, because it's very uncomfortable right now. Like I'm in a point where I haven't talked to myself, my own thoughts in so long that, one of my challenges is, starting a little bit small. So, excuse me, things like, going to the bathroom, which is like minor, but we all do it a million times a day. Well, maybe not a million. Go see a doctor.
We can get you a pill for that if you're listening and that is your ailment.
You can count at least a few times a day you're going to be going to the bathroom. Just not bringing your phone in with you. Yeah. And so, goodness, was that uncomfortable at first. I felt bored and what's going on, and I'm wasting time, and this overproductive energy in me was firing on all cylinders, and I couldn't just shut off my brain to just sit there and think for a minute. How hard is that? And so, now it's been a couple of weeks of doing this, and I definitely have moments where I slip up and I realize I have my phone with me and I'm like, crap. So it is a learning curve, and I'm like trying to show myself grace, but really limiting my time on Instagram, my time on social media, and trying to block out as much of the like what other people are doing as possible. Yeah. And focus on what I'm doing. Because one of the things that, I've been self-reflective now the past couple of weeks. So one of the things that I've been reflecting on is that, I used to create from a place within, and it used to be, all forms. It wasn't just photography. I would paint terribly, but I would paint and I would do, these mixed media projects and just lots of different creative outlet type things that weren't just photography. And it all came, from inside me. And sometimes it didn't make any sense, but it was great. And it felt like I made something. Yeah. But I've realized, ever since this whole, I guess I'm gonna refer to it as like getting sucked into the Instagram rabbit trail, is that it's been a lot of, oh, I like that, I'm gonna do that. Oh, I like that, I want to do that. And then suddenly your whole to-do list is things that other people have already done, as opposed to thinking, what is my purpose? Like, what unique thing does God have for me that these other people don't have? And that's for all people. I'm not the only special one. So if you're listening, that's like, what unique thing did God give you that you can offer the world that you're not utilizing and not, acting on or doing? And basically I kind of started to feel like I wasn't really living like my true calling, that I was just living the what I see and what I like, I want to do calling.
It's like a catch up. You're just catching up with where everybody else seems to already be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
keeping
exhausting.
up with the Joneses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So so one of the really cool things that I'm excited about is backtrack. I have not ever been like a goals person. Like you, I find myself so much in the day-to-day that it is hard for me to think big picture. And I find myself, just putting out fires and like handling, the top priorities first. And like, I have very thorough workflows that I follow. And so I'm a very, very detailed, very, type A person. And to me, it's like, well, this project isn't done until every little like item on the list is done. And then I'll talk to other people and they're like, oh, well, you don't have to publish every wedding, or like, you don't have to, do XYZ, or like, you don't have to put every wedding on Pinterest or, whatever. And I'm like, what? No, of course you do. And so I've been really trying to reevaluate a lot of these systems that I've imposed on myself and think, is this working? And one of the sacrifices I made, which I won't get too much into, but was Pinterest. So I did give it to Chris. I was like, listen, I no longer care about Pinterest, which don't let marketers hear me. I know that's probably not.
Oh, I do a lot of things that marketers would say not to do, but your mental health is more important than anything else.
Exactly. And I just wasn't seeing a return on Pinterest. And I have now eliminated it from my workflow. And my goodness, did it feel like I took a weight off my shoulders. And so it's these little things where I'm just kind of reevaluating, where is my time going? What am I spending it on? And how can I instead use that time to kind of look at these big picture goals? So I got, have you heard of the Cultivate What Matters planner?
Oh, no, I haven't.
It's, Lara Casey is her name. I think she started as a photographer. I don't know her full backstory, but her, planners, a friend of mine told me about them, and they are wonderful. The whole first section of the planner is basically exactly what I needed. It's just walking you through who you are, your true identity, how you can use those to grow your, not grow is the wrong word, to serve your, true purpose and, all of this stuff. And so I'm working my way through that, but it's been really eye-opening.
That's brilliant.
It is. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, we'll have to get a link posted with this podcast episode so people can get hold of that planner. Yeah.
Yes, and it's fun. It's got stickers, and it's really cute.
Amazing. Can't go wrong with stickers.
Exactly. So what was I going to say? Do the planner.
You were talking about eliminating things off your list. Where you've imposed certain processes on yourself.
Thank you. Yes. So in going through this kind of, this in-depth look at yourself, I realized the only time that I'm utilizing one of my biggest skills, which is people. I love people. I love talking to people. I just feel like people don't intimidate me at all. I love meeting new people, and my sister-in-law, hopefully lovingly, has called me a golden retriever because I get so excited about meeting new people. I'm like a dog.
So sweet.
And I realized the only day of the week that I'm utilizing that is wedding days, and the engagement session and wedding days. So the only times I'm utilizing one of my biggest gifts is on the time, limited time, especially because I only shoot 15 weddings per year. So that's 15 out of 365 days that I am utilizing a skill that God gave me. And I can only call that a skill after being convinced by a lot of people, because I never would have thought that was a skill. But then, in having conversations with friends, talking through what people's personality strengths are, that's the one that I hear the most. And I was like, maybe that is a skill.
But I think that's the case for most of us. We don't realize what our skills are because to us it's normal.
Yes.
And so we don't realize it to other people. That's not normal. How we feel and how we operate. Yeah.
100% true. Yes. So that's, nutshell version. But so I'm using this planner now to start kind of doing these big picture dreams. And, like your husband, I'm thinking, well, what do I want my 5-year plan to look like? And I have never had those thoughts before. So
wow,
it's exciting. And we'll see, I will accept all prayers that I can, continue following through with all of this. Obviously, I think the hardest part of something like this is commitment, just like with anything. But the nice part is that every time that I'm practicing silence and having my own thoughts, I feel like I'm remembering a part of who I was, and it's just magical. So I think it'll be easy to stick to because I really love the feeling.
Oh, absolutely. And you actually got a quote on your website, which I loved. I can't remember who it was now, that says, do you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be?
Yes.
And that spoke to me, because the reason that we connected over this topic is because this has been my journey through 2019. And so when I saw you, I can't even speak English. I saw you, I seen you. I saw your post on Facebook about this, this being a year of silence for you, 2020, and just getting away from the noise and just reconnecting with God and with yourself and with your purpose and with your talents and with space. and with time.
Yes.
And that was my 2019. I got to the point where I realized, for a number of different reasons, that I was just burning out. Absolutely burning out. I was just exhausted. And I think often your body knows there's something wrong before you do. And I suddenly started just crying, and I didn't know why. And I remember we went out to see friends, and they were like, hello, and I went, hello, and I just started crying. And I ran to the bathroom, and I was texting Matt saying, I can't stop crying. I wasn't like sobbing. There was just tears just coming out of my face. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong. I text Matt, I think something's wrong. And Matt was like, yeah, this isn't like you. Okay, let's go home. And that was really the start of the journey, where I'm suddenly realizing something's very wrong, and I don't know what's wrong. And I had to scale back everything. Just I was getting rid of all of the things that I was doing that I thought was making me happy, but a lot of them were just busy things, or escapism things, just like you said, going on social media. There is a time when that is for relaxation, and then it tips over the balance and it becomes escapism, and that is then draining. And the same with watching telly, and all of the things that were actually stopping the silence, like you said. And so I scaled back everything. I restricted my social media initially to half an hour a day. So we I'm so proud. Yeah, similar to you. I was checking my phone. I was going to the bathroom with my phone. I was checking my phone last thing at night. I was checking it first thing in the morning. If I saw it lying on the side, I'd pick it up. And there was always this feeling of, I feel like something should have happened. And I'm not sure what it is, and so I'm constantly searching for that thing that should have happened, that's going to give me, I suppose, a buzz or a rush or something. And so we set up my phone like a child. So
smart. I need to do that, actually.
It's brilliant. It's one of the best things the iPhone has introduced. So it's got these restrictions. So you can set your phone to go on to downtime. So it turns off at 10 o'clock at night, and it turns back on at 10 o'clock at morning. Those are the limits that we've set. I can say what I want. So I still have my Bible and my concordances and YouTube, just because of for getting sermons and things. And I think I can still get the internet because of looking up words and things. But I can't get social media. I can't get my emails. I can still text with people. But so I knew what things were dominating my time and what things weren't, and were actually freeing me. And so then I only have access to those things after 10 o'clock at night. And so when I get to bed and I can't sleep, and I'm like, I can't sleep. So then normally I would start going on social media, or I would start Googling how to slow roast a joint of lamb, just something totally random because I can't settle my brain. Now I put on a worship song to relax me, and I think, if I still want to do something after that, then I will. So I put my headphones on, put a calming worship song on, and by the end I'm like, now I'm ready to go to sleep.
Oh, I love that.
Or if I really can't sleep, then I'm just listening to somebody, like an inspirational sermon or something on YouTube, or I'm reading my Bible, or just something just that I feel feeds my soul and just makes me feel like I'm coming alive. And the same in the mornings. And then so actually restricting social media to half an hour, that was really interesting, because it took the joy out of it. Because I had so much. Normally I would just scroll endlessly. So because that's another thing that the iPhone gives you is limits. So it limits on an app. So I had half an hour, but because I was going on there thinking, gotta get it all done like in half an hour, and so it took the joy out of it. So I was finding that I was only on there for 10 minutes anyway, because I was just checking, has anybody had a baby, is anybody getting married, all the baby, because sometimes it's your main source of news is Facebook or Instagram. And so then I was like, I think I can do 10 minutes. So we just restricted it to 10 minutes. I literally just have 10 minutes a day. It's gone up slightly because of the podcast, but that's during work hours. It's on my laptop, but on my phone, it's 10 minutes.
That is amazing.
Most of the time I barely even use that as well. And exactly like you said, it was a weird feeling, because it was an addiction for me.
Yes.
Totally an addiction. So I was agitated. I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt bored. I felt, I don't know what to do with myself. But now I'm loving it. I started spending 10 minutes a day, exactly like you said. I think God was stripping back a lot of the stuff that other people had told me that I should be, and how I should live. That I was genuinely, I thought my purpose in life was to meet the needs of other people, and that's what I genuinely thought my purpose on the planet was. And I remember one day walking on the beach and saying to God, well, God, if I don't have to do anything, I don't have to do this and meet everybody's needs and be your hands and feet, like, what's the point? Why am I here? And I felt God say to me, you're here for my pleasure. And I went, oh, so I can literally just be in relationship with you and just talk to you and that's enough. And he said, yeah. And I was like, no, I don't think that's the kind of thing God would say. You know, I think I'm just saying nice things when I want to hear. And I went and told a few people, that like, yeah, that's definitely what God is saying to me. So I'm learning how to just be and how to be loved. Not only be lovable, but be loved, and to feel love and to feel joy and to feel peace. And so I started just 10 minutes a day. I would just put on relaxing music, which for me was worship music. And I would, 10 minutes a day, I wasn't allowed to think about the past. I wasn't allowed to think about the future. I wasn't allowed to think about all the practicalities of things. I wasn't allowed to ask for things, you know, like, oh, please, I want this, or I want to be better.
Yeah.
You know, all of that. For 10 minutes, I just said, I'm here, I'm listening. And that was it. And I would just say it over and over again. I want to hear from you, God. I want to hear from you.
Yes.
And it became a solace. And 10 minutes turned into half an hour, turned into an hour. Before, I was spending hours every day just resting, being present in this exact moment now. And it got to the point I'm doing the bare minimum just to keep my current clients happy. And the rest of the time, I had no TV for months, 10 minutes of social media, and I was just listening. And I was starting to, God was starting to tell me a lot of really fascinating things about myself that had restricted my growth and restricted my joy. And I was running around like a headless chicken trying to keep everybody else happy. And so I now genuinely feel like I'm living in so much joy and so much peace and so much contentment. And I feel like freer than I've ever felt in my life. So I'm so
encouraging.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm like literally taking notes, like 10 minutes of worship and music. I love this.
Yeah.
You know, we have a, I'm part of a photographer's Bible study, and we meet every Wednesday, and it, you know, ends up being, you know, a whole day affair. We always say like, oh, it's 11:30 to 2:30, but then none of us leave till like 5:30. But one of the things that we do there is we call it soaking time. And we'll do that. We'll play like, you know, like 3 worship songs, and we all just rest. And during it, you know, we can journal or pray or just soak and relax. And every time that we do that, which it's been a couple months now, I'm like, I'm going to put that back on our radar. Nice. We used to do it once a month. And, you know, just 10 minutes, you know, a couple songs. And every time it's like, that's when I would hear, you know, God's voice the clearest. And I would just, you know, he'd pop little things into my head that I may have missed or ignored if he tried. You know, it's like trying to yell through a door. You know, if your door is always closed, if there's no room for silence, if you're always on, you know, social media or this or that, or always involved in something, and there's no open space for you to accept anything, it's literally like, you know, God can be screaming at you and you just can't hear it because there's no room for him. You've completely blocked him out.
So true. I started to realize that there was areas in my life where I could not hear the voice of God, and the voice of God is always life and peace. That's what it sounds like when you feel like something's making you come alive, or you feel like something's making you feel peaceful. That is the voice of God. And I could not hear it because I had other voices that had been taught to me from a very young age, or just culture, and I realized that I thought that's what God was saying, you know, I need you to do this and I want you to do this and this, and actually realizing that wasn't God at all. That's just systems, it's processes, it's man-made, it's culture, and it's not God at all. And, you know, for those of you who are listening and actually, you know, you wouldn't say, you know, we wouldn't call it God, but it's just, you know, whatever you call it, that positive force, that awakening, that aliveness in you, the place where you connect with peace and purpose. It doesn't, there is no kind of religious formula. There's nothing you need to do. There's no one you need to be. It's just that it works exactly the same for you to just put on some restful music and just be present. Just clear your mind of all of the, I think I need, I think I should, I think I must, I think I want, you know, all of these things, and just be present and just say, I'm listening. And what you're wanting to receive is joy and peace and purpose and rest, and to discover who you truly are. and who you've been made to be. So that I'm so excited for this journey that you're going to go on, or you're already on, you know, and
I know.
it's already happening.
Well, yeah, I feel like already, if I could say, like, there's one thing I've learned just, you know, since the beginning of January when I started this, like the word that I think keeps coming to me is contentment, because what happens when you're on these infinite scrolls is you feel inadequate and you feel like you're a failure and you feel miserable because you're seeing the highlight reel and you're seeing the, you know, the person who just shot a wedding at some magical villa in Italy, or, you know, the person who just, you know, is in Paris eating baguettes, or like, and for a travel lover like me, these are the things that make my heart, you know, yearn. You know, for other people, maybe it's you see these beautiful families and you don't have kids yet, or, you know, you see whatever your peers, your friends, the people that you follow are doing that you crave but don't have. It makes you feel like you're doing something wrong because, or you're not good enough, or you're this or you're that, and you start to believe all these lies about yourself that aren't true, because their plan and their purpose is not your plan and it's not your purpose. And their blessings are not your blessings. And we are meant to be different for a reason. And yes, it's fine to look at certain things and think that's, you know, my inspiration. I want to do that. That's totally fine. If it doesn't become your domineering thought in your head, and if you're constantly bombarded with all of these amazing things that people are doing, it can make your own life pale in comparison. And as soon as you block that all out, oh my goodness, my eyes have been opened to my own blessings. And I'm just like, how can I sit here with an ungrateful heart thinking, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this, when I get to live in a beautiful home. I have an amazing husband, amazing business, amazing clients. Like, you know, instead of looking at what I don't have, I've just been looking at what I do. And that, like, just mentality shift already has been incredible. And like, I'm like, if that's the only thing I learned this year, I'm like, I will keep learning it all year long because it's so worth it.
It was the same for me. I because this place of reflection, you know, and meditation was becoming such a solace, and I would close my eyes and I feel totally loved and totally peaceful and so joyful. And then I'd open and I just would feel like, this is all I need. This is, and then I'd open my eyes and go, I get to have all this too. I feel so full, you know, of everything. And exactly like you said, I think it can be poisonous. Social media, you know, things, and exactly like you said, there's nothing wrong with stuff that inspires you. And I think it's discerning yourself what is giving you joy and what is giving you life, and what is actually just making you feel stressed, making you die a little bit inside. Absolutely. And just being able to discern. There's actually a Bible verse that says solid food is for the mature, who by constant practice have honed their senses to be able to discern good and evil. But the original words for those good and evil in the original Greek when it was written was poisonous or beautiful.
Wow.
That's what it actually means. And so actually maturity is being able to discern what is poisonous and what is beautiful. And beautiful things inspire and make you come alive, and poisonous things set a rot, you know, inside you, where you feel like actually everything's just crumbling and you're dying a little bit. And so I'm incredibly grateful that God's been teaching me this journey. And I just, exactly like you said, I think it's affecting a lot of people, and it's a very real topic to talk about, because, you know, and I still sometimes feel this panic and this pull back to Instagram, where I just, and every time I go on there, I actually had to come off Instagram a year or more ago, because it was really affecting my mental health. Every time I went on there, I felt like my work isn't good enough. And I start tweaking my edit, and then I don't like it. And actually, since I stopped that, and because of the Love Light group as well, just being confident, no, this is what I like. I like doing this, and exactly like, I'm going to farm out Instagram to Matt, and Matt's going Matt's going to do it, because Matt is a lot more able, and probably your husband Chris is the same. Matt is able to do what he says: share and don't care. You just share it, and, you know, don't care who likes it. If you want, you know. and he's able to do that. So I'm like, okay, right, you do my Instagram. And but for the last year and a half, I haven't done Instagram for a long time, and my business is absolutely fine. I have all my clients.
It's amazing.
So, I think there's exactly like you said, we can self-impose, or we have to go on Instagram, or we have to go on Pinterest because that's what the marketers are saying. But then you've got other people who businesses are absolutely fine and they're not doing those things. And you think, oh, maybe I don't have to do it. And it's the freedom to just do what makes you feel like you're alive. And if it's affecting your mental health, it's not worth it. It's not worth having a business if it's crippling your mental health, it's affecting your relationships and your sometimes your physical health and everything. It's not worth it.
Right.
It's better to hone a business that actually works with you rather than is working against you.
Agreed. And I think like photographers especially are very susceptible to this because we love pretty things and we love to look at pretty things and dream about pretty things. And so it can be, like you said, an addiction just because it feels like sometimes it does feel really nice. Sometimes you're just like, oh, so, it's not like every time I went on Instagram, it was filled with envy. Sometimes I would be genuinely joyful. Like, oh, I'm so glad that person is visiting this country. Or I'm so glad this person's doing that. And like, the moments of good are what make you think the bad doesn't exist, but then the bad is still there. It's just subconscious until you realize you're believing these lies about yourself that are totally not true.
So true. Yeah. No, I'm so grateful for your honesty and your openness, because I think we can often hide these things, because to admit that we have an addiction, or admit that, I definitely had an addiction to my phone. And like people were laughing at me going, oh, don't be so silly. I'm like, no, I did. I had an addiction to my phone, and now my phone is set up like a child's phone. And it has restrictions on it.
You are not in the minority. Like I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people are, go through this. So that's why I think you're right. It is an important topic, and people wouldn't acknowledge it or call it an addiction. I certainly wouldn't have, but it really, it is the, Chris explained it to me once. It's the same thing that like slot machines, do to keep you playing. It's just, even Instagram scrolls like a slot machine, and it's just this psyche that we're prone to that can make it addicting. And of course, the notifications feel good. You're like, oh, somebody likes me. Like, obviously you can get addicted to that. I don't think there's a single person on this planet who does not enjoy a nice thing said about them.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, so I'm so grateful that, for your openness to talk about this topic. Definitely. Now, there's something that I forgot to ask you before we started this episode. Are you running any workshops, or is there any chance for people to come and learn from you, or is that something maybe in the future? Or
so we actually, this is a really cool one to talk about real quick.
Oh, good. Yes, of course.
That Bible study that I mentioned, so we call it Spark, based on, there's a Bible verse about turning darkness into light, and just, we fixated on the light and photography, and like the spark just, brings the light in. And so our Bible study is mostly photographers, and we host each year. We've been doing this. This is actually the 5th year in a row of the Ignite workshop. So Spark, Ignite, it's all, we're all pyros apparently.
It's a theme.
So the Ignite workshop we host completely free, and we do it as a way to give back to the community. And, really our ultimate goal is just for people to leave with an incredible experience, and for them to feel like so loved on and so served. And especially with it being free of cost, we want them just thinking, why would people be doing this? And so it is a ministry for us, and we share about Jesus there. We don't hide that, so it's not like people come and they're like, oh, like we literally host it in a church. So people know we're gonna talk about God a little bit there, but it is totally free. And last year we had 100 people. This year we're hoping to, limit it to around the same amount, just for the sake of experience. And, when it's free, it's hard because you want to open the doors to everybody, but we really want, 100 people to feel loved on and served on. And until our team grows bigger, that's kind of the most that we can love on at the moment.
That's amazing. So what happens at the Ignite conference?
Yeah. So
the retreat.
It is a one-day event, and it's 9 to 7 p.m. And it is a combination of keynote classes, which are, on the main stage for everybody to listen to, breakout sessions where people get a choice of 5 different classes that they can go to, you know, one of the 5 and kind of create their own curriculum. And then it also, this year we'll have a couple of styled shoot options where photographers can shoot both, you know, family photography and wedding photography. And so there's a team of about 20 of us photographers that are kind of the planning board, we'll call it, where we just put everything, you know, everything that we can into it, and try to offer as many different topics. Our tagline is it's for the new and the emerging, or the new and the established photographers. So it is people who have been in business, you know, 1 year, who haven't even filed their LLC yet, people who have been in business 8 years, 10 years. We kind of really tailor the curriculum so that there's offerings for everybody. And yeah, it's wonderful. And we include lunch for them as well. So it's just like a great community day where, you know, it's like so much energy, excitement, and then you take a 20-hour nap when it's all over.
Oh my goodness, this sounds incredible. Wow, what
It's
a
so
thought you
fun.
have to do this for people.
So if anybody is interested in that and lives locally to New Jersey, New York, they can go to NJ Spark. So like NJ for New Jersey, Spark, SPARK.co, the CO, not com.
Okay.
And they can find the information there. But yeah, we love
And when
that.
is the next one happening?
So that's coming up in March. That's March 21st,
Right.
Which is a Saturday. And we pick a Saturday because we know a lot of newer photographers still work full-time jobs, and we really want them to be able to come. So it is a Saturday, but we all make sure we have no weddings that weekend.
That is incredible. So what is it that you hope that people go away having received or learned or after they've come to the Ignite retreat?
We just want them to know first that they are loved and that we care about them. And also, you know, business wise, we just want them to feel like they're not alone. So we really try to encourage the smaller group connections where people can make friends. And there are people that have been coming since the first year that have, you know, been friend groups since their first year at Ignite. And so I feel like community is something I could never live without. And I would not be able to live in my business without community, because otherwise you're just behind a computer all by yourself and it's terribly lonely. So being able to find community is so huge. And so being able to have 100 people in the room who most of them have never met and be able to help them form new friendships, and, you know, then they can second shoot for each other and learn from each other and just grow up together in the business is definitely one of my, you know, secondary goals that happens at Ignite. So
I just think that is absolutely superb. So if you're in the area, there's absolutely no barrier and no reason to go, because it's free and you get lunch and you'll come away relaxed and loved and inspired and connected. So that is just amazing. I'm so glad that we had a chance to chat about this. I
love it. And I am thinking one other engagement this year, which is the Hybrid Collective Workshop, which is taking place in San Diego this year. And so I'm teaching a breakout for that particular workshop. But yeah, so that one is great for photographers who are trying to shoot film or already shoot film. It's a kind of, you know, the film and digital collective. But I love, I started going to it because I love that they taught film classes, and film is just so magical. So that's why I love that community as well.
Amazing. So that workshop's very focused on film, and is it practical? Are there styled shoots, or is it?
Yes, lots of beautiful. Actually, some of the most beautiful styled shoots in the world, I feel like, happen at the Hybrid Collective. Some, you know, great teachers. Great. I mean, it's all of the top names in the industry, and like speakers this year. I'm not going to remember everybody, but there's Amy and Eric McVeigh and Julie Paisley and Lauren Fair and just all of these. Oh, Elizabeth Messina is teaching this year.
Amazing.
So just these really, big, inspiring, film photographers all in one place. And it's just exciting. And obviously a huge honor to be even on that roll.
Amazing.
The roll call. So it's just, that's another one that's really great, especially if you're trying to learn film, just because they have a lot more offerings. Now, if you don't shoot film, there's definitely tons of classes that you can attend to grow your business. Yeah. That's just, they also have offerings for film photographers, which I know, for me early on, I didn't ever find that at, these, WPPI and these bigger workshops. I felt like that was one area I couldn't find, offerings on film. So That's the Hybrid Collective.
Amazing. And when is that happening?
That is March, hold on, 2nd through the 5th, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because I get there on the 1st. So March 2nd through the 5th in San Diego, California.
Right. Amazing. Oh, brilliant.
So March is a big workshop month.
Yeah. So we'll make sure that we get all those links posted. So if you're interested in those workshops, you can get involved. It sounds like both of them are just going to be incredible and really amazing opportunities. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us, Cassie. You're just an absolute delight. This
was so fun.
It really was. It really was. And I look forward to hearing how this year's gone for you and how it improves and affects your creativity and your business and your own life. So that's
I'm really excited.
Yeah, thank you so much for your honesty.
Thank you.
Take care.
If you enjoyed today's episode, you can find more interviews, tips and inspiration in the Love Light Fine Art community on Facebook. You can also follow along with each new episode on the Love Light YouTube, podcast and Instagram. And don't forget to visit www.sarahjaneethan.co.uk/lovelight for information on training, real life wedding workshops and online courses to develop your own fine art photography and connect with more of the clients you love.